I'm sorry. I've said this before, and I'm saying it again. From the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry. But first things first, Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate. Happy holidays to those of you who do not. But I'm sorry. I know it's been about a month and a half, but it's been a long semester. It's been a long year, an arduous year. But nevertheless, I'm back and I have a few videos in the pipeline waiting for you guys, and you'll see it in very, very short time. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about Barcelona, my club, as you can see from my profile picture. And frankly, I don't like talking about Barcelona very frequently. That's why I limit my discussions about them on the channel. But in today's video, I'm just going to be talking about Barcelona. And this may turn into a series that I do annually, where I kind of just talk about Barcelona in a broader scope, maybe talk about the things happening at the club in the current moment, and just give you my thoughts as a Barcelona fan. Of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe. I promise I will not go away for too long in these next few weeks. But as I said, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, subscribe. We always talk about football here, and today I'm going to be giving you my own thoughts on Football Club Barcelona. Let's get right into it. So it's been a long year, right? Barcelona, we've had a tumultuous time this year. There's so many things I could talk about. You had the absolute car crash that was Xavi's last few months at the club, and a group of players who basically just gave up on him towards the end. And I made a video about that. I think that was my first ever video. So it's a full cycle. Those of you who are new, those of you who are old subscribers, you guys will know about that video. And really and truly, I think it's been a year at Barcelona where it's the same old stuff. You know, they give you something to dream about, and then they revert back to the absolute nonsense that they do, as we've seen in the last few weeks. But I think the main point of call, and I want to keep things to the field, but I don't think you can do that when you're talking about Barcelona. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about with Hansi Flick's new team and the way that we've been playing and how exciting it was at the start of the season is this high defensive line, right? We talked about it in the Frankie de Jong El Clasico video, and how that high line is basically one of the principles of Hansi Flick's intense high pressing football. It starts the press. It basically is the fundamentals. And for me, I have no problem with that. If you want to play a high line, at least play a high line with common sense. And I said it in that video, and I'm going to say it again. Can you sustain this style of football for an entire season? Can you sustain this style of football against every single team in the world? Of course, against Mbappe, it worked, even though people thought that they would be able to breach that high line. We ended up beating them 4-0. Man, those were good times. But nevertheless, in those sort of games, you can do that. If you have a game plan, if everybody's in the right, everybody's reading off the same hymn sheet, you can play that sort of risky football. But then you have games where teams are going to figure you out. And that's why a league title is so comprehensive and so telling of who's the best team in the country, because teams play you home and away twice, and they're able to reassess what they did in the first game and do it again in the second game to try and beat you the second time. And I feel like when you've played those first batch of games and everybody now knows how you play, and you're playing at a really high level as Barcelona were at the start of the season, teams are obviously going to find a way to play against you. And I feel like the obvious thing for teams to do whenever they saw that high line that Barcelona were implementing was to just get runners from deep. You can't track runners from deep. You can't set up your high line against runners from deep. And ultimately, that's what teams have ended up doing. You saw it against Atletico Madrid with Conor Gallagher. You saw it against Real Betis with Giovanni Lo Celso. You've seen it against multiple teams. Even in the Champions League with Borussia Dortmund, you saw it with Pascal Gross. It has happened time and time and time and time again. You're seeing that our offside numbers from the start of the season and now are not as high as they used to be. And it also ties in with players in our defense not being at the same level as they were at the start of the season, as well as confidence, motivation, and the key word, momentum. So for me, it's no big deal. This high defensive line, I said it then and I'll keep saying it now. But Hansi Flick is never going to rest on his laurels. So for me to come here and tell you, I hope he changes this, or I think he should try this, or try and implement this, or try and move this, he's not going to do any of that. This guy is not going to change anything. We're going to keep playing with this high defensive line. The only thing that I can say is, with Ronald Araujo coming back, maybe he might help us out because he's faster than both Inigo and Pau Cubarsí, but I don't really expect anything to change. I expect the same high line for the rest of the season against every single opposition we play. It might hurt us. It might help us. Let's see. But touching on the last point that I made in the last point in the high defensive line, players' performances. And that's where you go into players and how they've been playing throughout the season. At the start of the season, you saw people like Marc Casado, people like Pedri, people like Dani Olmo, Rafinha, Lewandowski, all playing at a ridiculously high level, including Inigo Martinez. I want to give a shout out to him because I did not expect him to be playing this well. And you look at all these players and how well they've been playing throughout the season. I think it's very difficult for you to have players performing at that level for an entire season, especially if that's not their actual level. You always talk about how good is a player? Is a player in good form, or is that a player's normal level? And I think a lot of the performances that we were seeing at the start of the season were just good form. Inigo Martinez is a fantastic defender, but he was not going to be playing at that level for the whole season. Jules Koundé is actually an exception because I genuinely believe that he is that high-level footballer, but this guy's just been playing too many games, and we don't have any backup in his position. Hector Ford is a very, very talented player in my opinion, but for some reason Hansi Flick doesn't trust him. I'm not really sure why. You look at the left-hand side of the defense and Alejandro Balde. This is a guy who is very good, but frankly speaking, Alejandro Balde has not improved as a player in about 2 years. Like, if we're being very honest with ourselves, his attacking prowess is not great. The idea of giving Alejandro Balde an entire left flank to work with, which is basically what Barcelona do because Rafinha is not a left winger, is mind-boggling to me. And it was something that Xavi did as well. And I talked about it in that last video as well. He is not that good for you to be giving him an entire left flank for himself. He's not Marcelo. He's not Dani Alves. He's not even Joao Cancelo that I would say, yeah, give him that left flank. He will work his defender. He's not that good attacking. And defensively, at the start of the season, he was impenetrable. But now he's not even that anymore. So with Alejandro Balde, now you're thinking, okay, who can come in and replace him? And then you look at the bench and it's Gerard Martin. I mean, no disrespect to anybody here, but if Gerard Martin is the player you're looking at to be replacing Alejandro Balde, then it's going to be a very, very long season. And we've seen in performances throughout the season that Gerard Martin is not good enough. You then go into the higher areas of the field, people like Dani Olmo, even Lewandowski, even Frankie de Jong. I mean, like, come on, guys. Like, let's be honest here. Dani Olmo, I remember when he was performing well when he first came in and people were screaming, saying, believe in Laporta, believe in Deco. You guys were so quick to criticize and so quick to scrutinize and so quick to jump to conclusions. Just because Dani Olmo was playing well doesn't mean that his signing was warranted. We're looking at it now. He might not even be registered for the second half of the season. And it begs the question again, why did we sign this guy? It begs the question again, why was a number 10 the priority when we needed a winger? Why was the number 10 a priority when we needed backup in our fullback areas? Or even look at our striker, Robert Lewandowski, 37 years old. I remember I had friends, I won't mention their names. I had friends messaging me, and I know he's probably watching this video. I had friends messaging me telling me, oh, you wanted Lewandowski out. Well, look at you now. Lewandowski's been our worst player in the last 4 games and is the reason we've lost 3 in our last 4 games. The guy is 37 years old. You cannot be relying on a 37-year-old to bail you out of jail every single week. Get a competent backup striker. The whole Vitor Roque situation is an absolute disgrace. I'm not even going to touch on that way too much because I believe there's enough information out there for those of you who are interested in that topic. Pau Vitor, they bought him in for what reason? A player who's getting next to no minutes, whether it's on the left, down the middle, on the right. Hansi Flick much rather prefers playing a Ferran Torres player who gives you absolutely nothing at striker. And those of you who will come here and tell me that Ferran Torres is this, he can offer you something, he can score goals. I have a friend who tells me that Ferran Torres gives us something off the bench. Let it go. Let this go. Let this go. If we are still pushing Ferran Torres in 2025, Happy New Year to those of you watching. If we are still pushing Ferran Torres in big 2025, we are in for a world of hurts this season. I'm sorry. He is not good enough. And then they'll tell you, oh, he scored against Dortmund. Oh, he scored against this team. He does this every year. When you think that he's gone, when you think you've killed him, he comes back. He comes back to life. I don't know how he does it. I really don't know how he does it. But he's always there, always kicking. And all these poor performances have all blended together to give you the nonsense that you're seeing in the last few weeks. Mistakes in big games, missing key opportunities, losing out in games that we shouldn't be losing. And you're losing momentum, you're losing encouragement, you're losing motivation, you're losing morale. And that all feeds into the poor form that we've seen recently. And my next point then goes into that squad that we're actually talking about and how good the squad actually is. Because with the amount of games that we play in modern day football, which is frankly ridiculous, by the way, you need a good squad of players. You look at Chelsea, for example, and they basically have an A and a B team. With the amount of money they've spent, they basically have an A, B, and a C team. Not many teams have that luxury, but it seems in today's game, you need that luxury if you want to compete on all fronts. And it's clear to say that Barcelona don't have that. We simply do not have that. You look at somebody like Frankie de Jong. This guy is a player who suffered an ankle injury. He suffered, I believe, 3 ankle injuries last season to the same ankle. Refused to get surgery, all in the name of pushing for European championships that the Netherlands were never ever going to win. Then came back to Barcelona, never got fully fit, and is now basically playing cat and mouse with the medical staff about whether he's fit to play for Barcelona or not. And now the club is trying to renew his contract because he's a valuable asset, and he's telling the club he wants to stay, but then is not negotiating to sign a new contract. It's a clown show at Barcelona. I've touched on Ferran Torres and how I believe how utterly useless the guy is to this club. He is not a good player. He is not even good enough to be a backup player. Ansu Fati, hey man, thank you so much for what you've done for the club. Thank you for keeping our spirits high. And what was that, 2020, 2021, when we were really fighting? That was the trenches, you know? Luke de Jong, Serginho Dest, Adama Traore, Martin Braithwaite. That was the trenches. And Ansu Fati was keeping us alive. So thank you, my brother. But it's time to go. You know, it's time to find a new place to, reside, a new place to play your football, because Barcelona is not the place. Thank you very much for your services. Good luck. Yeah, move on to people like Gerard Martin. I've talked about him. Hector Fort's not getting enough chances. Pau Victor as well. Even Pablo Torre, an incredibly talented player like Pablo Torre, doesn't get enough chances, in my opinion. Dani Olmo's never fit. And people are now confused as to why Dani Olmo is always injured. I mean, the information was there for you to see that Dani Olmo is a very, very injury-prone player at Leipzig and Dynamo Zagreb and with the Spain national team. Yet, now all of a sudden, this has become some revelation that Dani Olmo's never fit. Yet we spent 60 million on him. 60 million euros when we didn't have a left winger. We didn't have any backups to our fullbacks. We don't have any CDM. We're relying on a 17-year-old who basically broke his ACL, and then Marc Casado, who is completely and utterly exhausted because he plays every single game for Barcelona because we have no replacement for him. You look at someone like Pedri, and it's people like Pedri that keep me going, you know? And that's the thing with football. I always say, at the end of the day, enjoy what you're watching. For me, and that's the thing, even throughout all the nonsense I've seen at Barcelona, and it's been utter nonsense, by the way, some absolute nonsense, I've always held that love, because you have people, even in the trenches times, you had your Lionel Messis, you had your Pedris, you know, you had your Ansu Fatis when he was still up. Now you have your Lamine Yamals, your Pau Cubarsí, your Pedris, and I'm not trying to make it seem like everything is doom and gloom. I genuinely believe this Barcelona team is good enough to be elite. We could still win La Liga. We could still win the Champions League. That's not what I'm saying. But I genuinely believe that Hansi Flick's incredible start to the season has made people completely forget all the problems that we had initially. We're now making it seem like we don't need any signings, and Laporta and Deco are pulling off a masterclass. Are you confused? Laporta and Deco have been utter disgraces in the transfer window, giving us promises about this and that, telling us about the Nike deal, telling us about the stadium, telling us about the registration of players, and then not coming up on any of those promises. Don't let Hansi Flick's incredible start to the season distract you from the rubbish job that those two have done in their roles at the club. Don't let it distract you. Please don't. Because then we'll run into that cycle again of people believing that, oh, the squad is good enough. Flick can do enough with the squad. That's what they did with Xavi. They told Xavi, oh, work with it. You've got a good squad. You won La Liga. That squad was not good enough. Xavi fought for that La Liga. He had to completely throw away his whole footballing ideology because we didn't have good enough players. Then he lost probably his most important player in Sergio Busquets, and then the club said, make do. Here's Oriol Romeu. Win the league again against Real Madrid. He's not a miracle worker, and neither is Hansi Flick. You need to support these guys. And people will say, oh, we don't have money. We spent 60 million on Dani Olmo. I mean, if that's not enough for me to say, I really don't know what else is. I genuinely don't know what else is. But back to the point about the good things in this club. You look at the X factor players we have, like Rafinha, he's come on leaps and bounds, man. And this is like an annual video, like a year after the video I made about Xavi's Barca. And do I say I want to apologize? But I'd like to acknowledge Rafinha and how much he's come on leaps and bounds in this year, and really just give him his plaudits, because he has really taken an incredible role at the club that I never expected him to. His performances have skyrocketed, and he's really pushing this team forward, both physically and mentally. And I really, really want to acknowledge him. Lamine Yamal, hey man, I just hope this club doesn't kill him before he gets into his prime. He's got an ankle injury. He got an ankle injury earlier in the season, and then they rushed him back just so he could watch us live in the flesh lose to Las Palmas. And then he got injured with another ankle injury, and now they're telling me they want to rush him back for a Super Copa game in Saudi Arabia against Athletic Bilbao. This football club is one of the funniest clubs on the planet. Genuinely one of the funniest clubs on the planet. But when it comes to Barcelona, there's so many positives. You look at Pedri Gonzalez, the heartbeat of the football club. My heartbeat. I watch Pedri Gonzalez and I see why there's a reason to watch football. You know, just a ridiculous footballer. You look at his performance against Atletico Madrid, and I was watching that Atletico Madrid game, and I'm sitting there and I'm just watching Pedri, and I'm clapping my hands. I genuinely stood up and I clapped my hands. I couldn't believe what I was watching. You know, when you see performances like that, you genuinely believe maybe football is not finished after all. You know. And then you see the terrorism that Diego Simeone's team inflict on us. Lewandowski's missing chances like God knows what. Rafinha is trying to chip the goalkeeper from 35 yards out, and then we lose the game. And then after the game, they'll tell you that we played a good game. How about you just finish your chances rather than making these excuses that, oh, but we played a good game. All right. Keep playing good games and keep losing. Let's see where that gets us in the league. And I'm sorry I keep going back to the negatives, but it's really frustrating. Like, genuinely think about it. If you're a fan who's not Barcelona fan, and maybe you generally don't care because you don't like Barcelona, or you maybe don't support a team that has anything to do with Barcelona. But think about it this way. Barcelona are currently 5 points behind Real Madrid. I know it's 2 points, but if we're honest, it's 5 points. Real Madrid are winning that game in hand. Valencia are the worst team in the league. They're 6 points behind Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid are also going to win their game in hand. I already know that's going to happen. We're 5 points and 6 points behind second and first place. Real Madrid have not been good the entire season. Let's make that very clear. Okay, they've kind of come back up in the last few. They've not been good the whole season. I've watched Real Madrid almost every single game they've played, and I think I can count on my fingers how many good games they've played this season. Yet they're 5 points ahead of us. They're 5 points ahead of us. There's been an 11-point switch between the El Clasico and now. You've completely thrown away all the good work you did at the start of the season with performances that could have really, really just been done without. Atletico Madrid, don't even get me started on them. I watched that game against Atletico Madrid, and it will seem like I'm being salty. This comment I'm about to make will make it seem like I'm coming across as salty. But Atletico Madrid are not a good team. Like, they're not a good team. Genuinely. I watched that game against them, and I might sound contradictory, but we played a good game. And genuinely, if our players actually finished the chances they had, we would have won that game so comfortably. And in that game, there was nothing from Atletico Madrid that made me go, oh, this is a good team. Oh, these guys are actually very good. Oh, these guys are a quality team. I struggle to see how we're going to get by them this season. They're not a good team, yet they're 6 points ahead of us in the league. So that's where the frustration comes from. But then I go back to the thing about what was the expectation at the start of the season. I don't really think there was much of an expectation. There wasn't for me. I thought Real Madrid would run away with the league. I thought Real Madrid would win the Champions League. I thought we'd finish second by a distance, maybe 10 points. So at this point, I can't really be mad if I'm looking back at the start of the season. But then when you look at where we were, it's like you've thrown away where we were with games that aren't even difficult. It's not like you're losing to Real Sociedad. Okay, we did lose to Real Sociedad. It's not like you're losing to Real Madrid. It's not like you're losing to Atletico Madrid. You're losing to Las Palmas and Leganes and drawing with Real Betis. These are not the Liverpools, Man Cities, Arsenals, and Real Madrids and Inter Milans of the world. Leganes and Las Palmas. It's frankly ridiculous, man. But with Lamine Yamal, anything is possible. That's what I always say. If Lamine Yamal wants to win the game, anything is possible. That kid, magnificent player. But when it comes to Barcelona, should be an interesting 2025. I wonder what other promises Laporta is going to make us coming into this new year. Maybe he'll tell us we can buy Rafael Leao. Maybe next he'll tell us that we're going to move into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Maybe next this guy is going to start serving us dreams that we're going back to the 1-for-1 ruling and that we're going to sell De Jong for 150 million and that we're going to go and buy another youngster from Brazil, and that's going to kickstart our season after we sack Hansi Flick and go and appoint somebody like Thomas Tuchel. Who knows, man? Genuinely, who knows? And then you've also got the Barcelona fans who flip-flop their opinions on every player and every manager in this club every time we have a bad result. But nevertheless, it is what it is. It's just football at the end of the day, as some people always like to say. But of course, if you guys enjoyed the video, that was basically a rant from me. And that's why I don't like making videos on Barcelona. I come here and I basically just talk my mind. I just say whatever's on my mind. There's no structure to the video, just vibes. Just me talking about whatever is on my mind, because this team, it's a love-hate relationship, as I'm sure it is with every single one of you and your own teams. But of course, if you like the video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you're new to the content, as I said, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Comment so you never, ever miss out on a video. Stay involved. Let me know your own thoughts on your own teams. Manchester United fans, what do you think about Amarim? You know, Arsenal, what do you think about Set Piece FC? Man City fans. Well, there's none of you here, so what am I looking into the camera for? Real Madrid fans, how do you feel about Mbappe? Or Osama bin Laden, as they call him. Liverpool fans, I'm sure you guys are enjoying your Christmas time, enjoying your New Year's, enjoying the year as a whole. Arne Slot's penitentiary is getting full. And Everton fans, if there's any of you out there, whoever you support, Pukas, Club America, Vasco da Gama, Orlando Pirates, Sundown, whoever you support, tell me down in the comments below and what you think about them. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves.